Right, I am filming this in the future. Well, in the now, but in the future of this video. So on the 7th of January is when we came to Philadelphia. So we left Boston and then came to Philly. I don't know, it was a few hours on the train. I can't remember now, but it's that train is a pretty repetitive, what's the word I'm looking for?
Frequent.
Thank you. That train is a pretty frequent train. That line that goes from Boston through like New York, Philadelphia, then down to not Orlando. Maybe Orlando, actually. Yeah, Orlando. That train, I think it runs like every couple of hours during the day because it's kind of a business commuter because it connects a lot of points anyway along that side. So we got that train from Boston, and then with the plan of staying in Philadelphia overnight and then getting a different mode of transport out of Philly, and we'll get to that. So we got in later in the day, I think maybe again like 4 o'clock or something, I don't really remember now. Just got some dinner, and we're actually pretty happy because in this hotel that we're staying in, and it's the same hotel that we stayed in it both times that we've come to Philly, is right next to a place called Dig, which is they just do like bowls. So, but we've been able to get like lots of vegetables, and that's like brown rice, vegetables, and then a protein. Yeah, and so then the next day, got all of our stuff packed up, kept it in the hotel because we're technically checking out, but we had the whole day probably till about 6 o'clock of things to do. So in the morning, we went for a walk, went down because we're not that far from the Liberty Bell, maybe like K&a-half, maybe 2Ks. So went there, went and had a look at that, and I'll tell you, I'll put in a little bit of footage from it. I don't think I shot a lot there, to be honest. When we were here for the first time, the Eagles were playing the Giants that night, and so there was a lot of people around who had obviously just come up from New York for the night to to watch the game and to spend some time here and have a look around. And there was one guy in New Jersey and his family, and they were crossing the road, and someone was like beeping at them, and then they were booing them, and then it was funny because then the guy's like, "Oh, so much for the city of brotherly love," but it was just funny because he had this really loud booming voice, and it was very funny. And then they saw other people in Eagles jerseys, and they were beeping and laughing at them, so that was pretty funny. Then sat a little bit in the park just outside of it, which is pretty nice, and just spent some time there, which is good. A bit nice and relaxing actually, like quite calm and quite pretty. Cold though. Ooh, it was cold, and that kind of cold that you feel like all the way through. And I'm pretty sure we're wearing like thermals that day, and my jacket, and it was cold. But then we did have a bit of a wander around, and we went to the Benjamin Franklin Museum, which I'll put in the footage of the stuff from Benjamin Franklin now. So some of that is like a steel outline of where his house was. And then if you go underground, there's a museum under there, and some of the stuff in there is pretty funny.
What have I done to merit these cruel sufferings? Many things. You have ate and drank too freely, and too much indulged those legs of yours to their indolence. Who is it that accuses me? It is I, the gout. What? My enemy in person?
Also, the rangers that work at the museum are really nice, like really very nice, very friendly, and like really interested as well in what they're doing, and everyone's like you know, greets you in each part of the place that you go to where you see them. That's very nice. And then there is a printing press which you can go and have a look at, but when we'd finished at the museum and went to go look at it, they must have been on a break, so we didn't get to see them. That's fine. And then we went and had a late lunch at a nice little Italian restaurant. I got chicken parm, Mum got meatballs, I think. And then we walked down to City Hall to see that. It's a pretty impressive building, actually. After we went to City Hall, Town Hall, I think it's Town Hall, City Hall. We went to the Love Park to see the Love, I don't know if it's a sculpture, I guess it is, because Mum really wanted to see it, and I guess because it's kind of iconic. There was lots of people there, lots of Instagram models. Really had to get in line and wait, and then wait some more. And then I offered to take some photos for the family in front of us, because there was like 4 or 5 of them, but obviously they couldn't all be in the photo at the same time. It's not really one that's easy to selfie at, not with a large group of people, because you kind of, the Love is at the top and then you stand underneath it. You'll see in the footage that I put in for my very mature response to Love. You can't do that from that position. If you're underneath the sculpture, you won't get it in. Anyway, so I took some photos of them, and then the Instagram gang came back and were like, oh, you can take some photos of us too. So that's what I did. I took some photos of them, took some great photos of Mum too, because obviously that's what I like to do. And she was like, wow, these are the most amazing photos, Leah, thank you so much. Anyway, so we went and did that, and then we went back to this little winter wonderland park that was outside of City Hall, just kind of in between the park and City Hall, and they had like a ice skating rink there, and then like this flower nature kind of display. I'm not describing it very well. I think I took some footage of it. So it was a very nice day, actually. We jammed quite, considering we weren't really sure what we were even going to do for the day. Like, we knew that there were lots of things to do, but we didn't really have a solid plan about what we were going to do. We got in a lot of things, and some of them accidentally, like the Benjamin Franklin stuff. We didn't know that was there, so we just kind of stumbled across it. But I mean, this is a little bit like Boston in that sense. You can't swing a cat without hitting some sort of historical reference. If you're in that city and you're in Old Town or whatever it's called, there's stuff everywhere, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, this is where that guy did a thing, and this is where this guy wrote a thing, and it's everywhere, right? So you pretty much you should be able to just stumble across things even without a solid plan, which is exactly what we did. But it was a nice day, even though it was very cold. What the problem was that when we went to leave, got an Uber to our next mode of transport, and this was a mistake. We got a greyhound from Philadelphia to Indianapolis, and we stopped in Indianapolis to break up the trip a little bit. So anyway, we get to the bus stop. It is interesting. Look, you already know this. If you've ever caught a greyhound in Australia, it's pretty much the same, right? This isn't an American greyhound thing. I think this is probably a greyhound or bus. Let's just say bus specific thing. The terminals are a bit dank. Anyway, they're not the nicest places, but at night time, they're like nightmare cabins. So we're waiting there, get there a bit early thinking we've got to show them our tickets and whatever. I think it's going to be a very similar boarding experience to Australia. It is nothing at all like that. There's no seat allocation. It's like first in, best dressed. and there's no luggage sorting out unless you need some assistance. You pretty much like you get your ticket scanned, and then you just go and like throw your bag under the bus, and I think you do just throw it under there. That's what it seemed to be. And then this is a different experience for me. I've caught the bus from Adelaide to Melbourne back again before. I don't mind it, actually. I enjoy road trips. I've been through, I'll probably explain that before. I like them. But it's just, so I go to Mum. I'll take care of the bags. Just get us a seat. It doesn't matter where it is. Just make sure you get 2 seats together, and then that's it. That's fine. Anyway, so I am down. I have both of our suitcases at the entrance, and there's shit everywhere, right? Because people have just got their bags just like this, just with no thought at all, no Tetris, not even any real thought about protecting their own goods. You know what I mean? Like, you would think that putting your bags in like this is a good idea, because that's going to look after your stuff, right? It's going to keep your stuff secure. It's going to keep your stuff from moving. Oh no, it's just thrown in. And then people are getting off at all different stops, right? Because it's not like this is exclusively point A to B. This is multiple stops along the way with people getting on and off. How are you going to find your bag? You just throw it in there. Because again, in Adelaide, the man figures out where you're going. So I shouldn't say man, the driver. I've always had a man driver, but it's not always a man. He figures out where you're going, or they figure out where you're going. They put your stuff in there in accordance to where you're going, so that when your stop comes up, say, on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere, they can just easily get your bag and pull it out. So anyway, that is not what happened here. So we got that bus at 6 o'clock at night. It departed from here, and then arrived at Indianapolis at, I think, 10:25 the next day. And I thought, well, I can do that. I'm fine, I can do that. I've done long haul flights. Anyway, would not recommend in any circumstances. We just stop actually, no, this was one weird thing as well, right? So there's no seat allocation, there's no luggage, whatever. I mean, look, I guess it's all about personal responsibility here, right? Like, you're in charge of yourself, your own personal freedoms, and your own personal responsibility. But to be honest, I like someone to sometimes be a little bit responsible for me. So get on the bus, and we're driving. We start to see snow. And keep in mind, this is the first time we've really properly seen snow, right? Because at Boston, we got that little flurry, but it didn't really fall on the ground. The ground wasn't white in any sense. Anyway, it is really coming down while we're driving along, and at one point the driver has to stop, like full on stop very quickly, and we move a little bit, but we both have seatbelts on, and I think we may have been the only people on the bus with a seatbelt on. There was a lot of clamouring after that, and then a lot of people sticking their heads in the aisle to look down to see what was happening, I guess, so that they could be prepared if we were going to suddenly stop again. But my advice would be that even if a seatbelt isn't mandatory, you should probably put one on anyway, just for your own personal safety. But anyway, so yeah, but that was one thing. And then after this kind of big lot of snow that we drove through, we had to stop at Pittsburgh, the station there, for about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. And you had to get off the bus, because they had to service the bus, and then all go inside and wait behind door number 11. When he was saying that to me, I just assumed that there was like a room behind door number 11. No, it's just a random door. But there was not really enough space, seating in there for everyone. So that was interesting. Also, it was midnight. So again, if we think about a bus stop in a bus station in the middle of the day is not ideal. In the middle of the night is a nightmare cabin. There was people in there asking the worker in there. He was trying to direct people to where they needed to be. He was being quite helpful, and they just kept asking the same, just full on, just at him. And he, look, it was interesting, and would not repeat. But anyway, we did it, we finished it, we made it to Indianapolis, and anyway, you'll hear about Indianapolis in the next video. But this video from Philadelphia includes some of that bus trip because we were really only here for a day. So there's not really a huge amount to report on. And also the bus is, well, it was a story. So anyway, yeah. All right. Have a good one. Love you. Miss you.